So when we get to the build-up of a big fight, particularly a fight that's on the Sky side of the play, I must admit, some of the programming in the lead up to the fight, maybe the gloves are off, really does help to build and generate interest in a clash. Kell Brook versus Errol Spence, as we know, is a real great fight. Two good fighters, question marks over both. Two guys operating at the very top of the sport, and a real genuine 50-50. Regardless of that, I want to applaud Sky and applaud the production team for the quality of programming in the behind the ropes episodes that were aired in advance of this fight this weekend. For me, as a hardcore boxing fan who was excited for this fight anyway, this programming has only got me more excited for the boxing to take place this weekend. I thought both episodes, the Kell Brook episode and the Errol Spence episodes, were particularly interesting. Errol Spence, he's a character who we know about as a name, I guess you could say, from a UK boxing perspective, but perhaps a character who we don't know too much about in terms of his background. And I certainly think this programming gave some light on Errol Spence and showed some of his background and his experiences. As for Kell Brook, I thought we got some interesting dynamics in his camp as well. So starting with Kell Brook, I thought the program of Behind the Ropes really dedicated the first 40-50% of the Kell Brook side of the program to addressing, I guess, what you could describe as the elephants in the room when it comes to Kell Brook. So a substantial amount of the program is devoted to talking about the loss to Gennady Golovkin, and the program puts emphasis on the fact that Brook suffered an eye injury in that fight, and that Brook believes he's recovered from that injury and the eye's been fine in sparring, etc. It also addresses the elephant in the room, if you like, with regard to the weight issue and how difficult it's been for Kell Brook to get himself back down to 147. Now, as we know, Kell Brook was only, I don't know, 6 or 7 pounds over the 147 limit for a check weigh-in, so clearly he's training very hard, he's taking it very seriously, and it looks like he's in good condition on, putting himself with as good a chance as possible to make that weight limit and make it well. But I think Kell Brook is extremely frank in the build-up to this fight on Behind the Ropes, and for me that was interesting. I wasn't necessarily expecting the frankness from Kell Brook that we actually saw in this programming. He says that he's very clear about how difficult 147 is for him to make. He said that after the loss to Golovkin, when he decided to go back down to 147, he almost stopped seeing food as something that's nice to eat, but started to see food as a pure fuel in terms of helping him with his training and helping him get into the condition he needs to be. There's even footage of him and his training partners, and we'll come to that later, but there's even footage of him and his training partners going out for food and Kell not being able to eat the same food as the rest of the guys. Kell's also frank about how big a challenge he sees in front of him in the form of Errol Spence. At one point, Kell makes a comment that is something like, he wouldn't be surprised if both of us go down in the fight, which I thought was a very interesting comment and shows just how seriously Kell is taking Errol Spence, because I was thinking Kell may think that, having gone up to 160 and having faced a feared puncher like Gennady Golovkin, I was thinking maybe Kell would view Errol Spence as a step down, certainly in terms of punching power, if not levels in general. And, obviously, Kell Brook was injured by Golovkin and stopped, Kell Brook wasn't actually dropped by Golovkin. So to hear Kell Brook speculating that he may get dropped by Errol Spence was actually a surprise to me. But all in all, it does seem Kell Brook is fully aware of the size of the challenge ahead of him as he, moves closer to this fight with Errol Spence. He seems to rate Errol Spence as a legit top-level fighter. And he seems to be aware of, some of the other question marks over him, such as the weight and that side of things. I thought that was interesting and revealing and relatively honest footage. The programme for the second half switches emphasis and focuses on Kell Brook's camp, which I believe is in Future Ventura. You can see a number of the Ingle Gym fighters, including Kid Galahad, go out and train with Kell, and some of the training footage there is is of interest. We also see him sparring with Jamie Cox, which I actually covered on the channel relatively recently in a separate video, but Jamie Cox is complimentary about Kell And yeah, certainly it looks like some good sparring in the lead up to the Errol Spence matchup. You know, all in all, a good piece of programming, and you know, I'm someone who's followed Kell Brook's career for a good while now, and I think this insight into his camp and you know some of that footage and some of the way he was you know talking so frankly, you know, I thought it was something new, perhaps a side we haven't seen before. So I certainly enjoyed it. The Errol Spence programming was also interesting. Errol Spence is a guy whose name I've been aware of for quite some time. Obviously, he's an Olympian in terms of the amateurs, and he's made a rapid rise through the pro ranks. But in terms of the Errol Spence story, his background, where he's from, what he's done, maybe I was less clued up on that side. And it was very interesting actually to see Errol Spence's gym in Texas, to see him working with and interacting with the Charlo brothers who work out of that gym. There was a lot of footage of Errol Spence with his father, with his trainer, and talking about the potential influences and impacts that those guys have had in his career to date and on his life so far. You know, I got the impression with Errol Spence that he has a real sense of calm, cool confidence about him. It reminds me somewhat of the fight we saw only last weekend where Gervonta Davis defeated Liam Walsh. And you kind of got the impression in the build-up to that fight that Gervonta Davis, being a young, undefeated fighter, maybe wasn't so aware of his own vulnerabilities. You know, he seemed so confident of beating Liam Walsh, you know, that he looked like he was going to potentially overlook him. And his confidence at times possibly did border on arrogance. You know, there was a real sense that he was the next big thing, and he knew that, everyone around him knew that, and he kind of viewed Liam Walsh as easy work, and that turned out to be the case. I don't get the same perception in this fight that Errol Spence necessarily views necessarily views Kell Brook as easy work, because obviously Kell Brook is a much bigger name than Liam Walsh. He's performed at a much higher level, and potentially he's a more dangerous fighter in terms of his power. But nevertheless, I still get that sense of confidence from Errol Spence that, you know, he kind of believes he's the next big thing. He doesn't believe anyone's going to be able to stand in his way, and he kind of is under the impression that this is his time, and he's coming over to rip the belt away from Kell Brook even. Fascinating clash here. You know, two guys who really are exciting fighters, two guys who are stylistically very, very different, and you know, this programming for me was well filmed, well produced, gave different and varied insights into both guys' personalities, backgrounds, training setups, and if anything has got me more and more pumped for the fight that takes place this Saturday. I'm recording this and intending to upload this video to the channel on Tuesday evening, so in terms of what I'm planning to do this fight week, the podcast will be on Wednesday, where myself and the panel will be discussing all the fights on the bill. George Grove's prediction video, final breakdown. The intention is to get that up on the channel this evening, Tuesday evening. Kell Brook final prediction video will probably go up Thursday night, maybe alongside a Dave Allen final prediction video. Dave Allen takes on Lenroy Thomas for the Commonwealth. On Friday, we may go live and do some reaction to the weigh-ins and some final thoughts on Friday, and then potentially on Saturday, on fight day, we'll do some undercard commentary, and then after the fight we'll either do a post-fight reaction video or go live, so you know, some of the people in the chat can interact and we can discuss you know, the fight after it's taken place. But this is a really, really good card. Jamie Cox also features on the bill, as well as one or two other names as well, so it's a really, really good card. I'm mega pumped for it. You know, the build-up has only got me more pumped, and I'm, you know, really, really looking forward to seeing what goes down. At present, I still actually haven't made my decision on who's going to win this fight. I view it as so close. I think there's unanswered questions about both guys. I think both guys have the style to cause the other one real problems if they're able to implement their game plans. And you know, I keep flip-flopping really between who I'm going to choose. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Who's going to win this fight? What did you make of this programming? Leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video and you appreciate the content, please take the time to click the thumbs up button. In doing so, means there'll be extra visibility coming to the channel. If you're new, you haven't done so before, do press subscribe so you can check out all of my other videos that will go up, especially this week with the big fight coverage. My links to my Facebook and Twitter are in the description box below. Give me a follow on Twitter at Boxing Gossip, and you can add me as a friend on Facebook using the link in the description. Many thanks for watching, guys. Do appreciate it.